Tennis stars aren't exactly known for keeping their cool. Most of them had had their fair share of fights with the umpire or smashed rackets in frustration, but rarely ever does it boil over to the crowd. So why was Denis Shapovalov swearing at the crowd at the Italian Open? How did he get the best of Nadal? Plus, how is Carlos Alcaraz fast becoming the best tennis player of his generation? Stay tuned to find out. First up, silence. In tennis, it's the umpire's job to control the crowd. Thankfully, it normally doesn't get too rowdy, but at the Italian Open it was chaotic. Denis Shapovalov was in the second set of his match against Lorenzo Sonego when there was a big argument about the rules. Shapovalov had just served and Sonego failed to return it, but he immediately challenged Shapovalov's serve. When the umpire came and agreed that it was out, Shapovalov wasn't happy. He argued from the net and pointed to the spot where he thought the ball had landed, but things went from bad to worse when he stepped over the net to point to the mark. The umpire told him that he was going to receive a code violation and a point penalty for crossing the net. As you can imagine, that didn't go down very well with the Canadian. He protested his innocence and said that he was just trying to point out the mark for the umpire. The supervisor was called and things didn't go down much better. And what wasn't helping him was the crowd booing and whistling at him while he was arguing. Eventually his frustration got the better of him and he screamed for the crowd to shut the up. That didn't help either, and in fact Shapovalov got another code violation for unsportsmanlike conduct. As a result, he lost his serve and Sonego was leading the set 5-3. But Shapovalov had the last laugh at the end of the day. He won the third set to win the match and made it all the way to the quarterfinals. Next, we have Denis the Menace. This isn't Shapovalov's first time getting heated during a match. In fact, he's had a number of incidents over the years. Back in 2017, during the Davis Cup, Denis was representing Canada in the nation-based competition. After missing a shot, he hit a ball hard into the sky out of frustration. The problem was that it didn't go into the sky, but instead went into the eye of the chair umpire. He was defaulted from the match and was handed a $7,000 fine. That is one expensive shot. He had difficulties with the crowd in the past, too. At the St. Petersburg Open in 2020, Shapovalov was in the middle of his match against Andrei Rublev when a crowd member got under his skin. The fan was clapping loudly and yelling things at Shapovalov. After losing the next point, Shapovalov shouted at the fan to get out of here. This time, the opponent agreed. Rublev told the umpire that it was too much in a show of good sportsmanship. And just this year, he had another run-in with an umpire. This time, it was during his match against Nadal at the Australian Open. Shapovalov was angry that Nadal was taking too long to get ready and receive his serve. According to the rules in Grand Slam competitions, players have 20 seconds to take their serve, and the receiver has to adjust to the rhythm of the server. For Shapovalov, it wasn't too long, and he wasn't happy at all. He confronted the umpire about it, and after exchanging a few words, Shapovalov walked off, yelling that, "You guys are all corrupt." In an interview after the match, he said that he misspoke, but that he stands by his view, that it was unfair how umpires were more lenient with Nadal than other players. What makes Carlos Alcaraz better than his idol Nadal? And which big names have been forced to pull out of the French Open before it even begun? Don't go anywhere, because all that's coming right up. Now for crowd management. After his outburst at the Italian Open, Shapovalov had some thoughts on what could help control the crowd. He said in an interview after the incident that tennis should follow the example of the NBA in the US over there. Shapovalov says that they are way more strict over there. He says that even though fans do heckle the players in the NBA, quote-unquote, if they cross the line, they get kicked out right away. Part of the reason that the crowd was so vocal in Shapovalov's match at the Italian Open was that his opponent was Italian. The home crowd was always going to be against him, but in the end, Shapovalov didn't let it get to him. He had a pretty good tournament after that match too. In the next round, he faced Rafael Nadal. After dropping in the first set, he came back to clinch the match in 3 sets. But he was aware that Nadal wasn't at his best, and that the world number 3 was battling an injury. After the match, Nadal revealed that it was a foot issue that was causing him the trouble. Shapovalov was understanding, and he acknowledged that there was clearly something wrong with Nadal towards the end of the match. The Canadian also said that he is a huge fan of his, and he grew up idolizing him. In a shocking comment, Nadal has said that he cannot keep going with these kinds of injuries. The iconic Spaniard said that, "With such a daily pain, it's hard for me." This could mean that Nadal's career is coming to an end soon. Well, I mean, he could retire happy, having won 21 Grand Slams, including a record-breaking 13 French Opens. But Shapovalov and the entire tennis community are hoping that he'll at least make it to an upcoming French Open. Up next, French Open. Speaking of the French Open, there have been a recent number of developments that could change the result. Andy Murray has pulled out of the competition. The former world number 1 had to pull out of the Madrid Open after beating Dominic Thiem and Denis Shapovalov due to an illness. Instead of the French Open, Murray has said that he plans to travel to the UK in preparation for the grass court season, especially Wimbledon, which comes up in June. The 35-year-old has been plagued by injuries throughout his career. He had hip surgery in 2018 after battling the injury for years. He floated the idea of retiring in 2019, and he's withdrawn from many tournaments over the years due to injury. Although he hasn't revealed what the injury he's suffering actually is, if it's related to his hip injury, then it could reignite talks about retirement. Another casualty for the French Open is going to be hometown hero Gael Monfils. The entertaining Frenchman has to undergo surgery for a heel injury. He said in a tweet that he's been bothered by a calcaneal spur and that he needed the operation to continue his career. Rafael Nadal is no stranger to injury either, and the foot injury he picked up in Italy could rule him out of competing at the French Open entirely. The tournament director Amelie Mauresmo said that they're all crossing their fingers that Nadal will be able to play Roland Garros this year. And finally, Alcaraz. It might be the right time for Nadal to retire because he could be handing the baton over to the next up-and-coming Spaniard. At just 19 years old, Carlos Alcaraz is already ranked number 6 in the world and has defeated Rafael Nadal and also Matteo Berrettini and Novak Djokovic. This has led some to predict that he could achieve double-digit Grand Slams in his career. And Alcaraz has belief in himself too. He's aiming for the win at the French Open this year. He said, "I'm not afraid to say that I'm ready to win a Grand Slam. Physically, I feel very well, and also I'm mentally strong." World number 4 Tsitsipas thinks that Alcaraz is among the favorites to win the French Open, along with Novak Djokovic. This is a big call considering Rafael Nadal's absolute dominance in the competition since 2005 when he first won it. Nadal himself is singing praises for Alcaraz too. Before they faced each other at the Madrid Open this year, Nadal said that he thought Alcaraz was better than him, and that was before the match even started. Nadal admitted that Alcaraz was in better physical condition and had all of the right traits to win. Plus, he had the momentum. Alcaraz wasn't so sure. He said that Nadal has 1,000 lives and that you could never count the tennis legend out of the fight. And Alcaraz has nothing but respect for Nadal. He said that he's always looked up to Rafa and he's been able to learn from him too. "If I were Nadal, I wouldn't know whether to be flattered or frightened. He's created a monster." Do you think that Alcaraz is going to become the world number 1 in the future? And how long will Nadal have? Leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.